The meeting will now come to order. Diana, can you read the sunshine law?
Pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Law, notice of this meeting stating the time and place was satisfied by the filing of an annual notice with the local source in the Star Ledger, newspapers of general circulation within the Township of Union, and posted on the bulletin board of the Township of Union Municipal Building.
Thank you, Diana. Welcome to the Township of Union's Planning Board meeting dated November 21st, 2021. Could I have a roll call, please?
Ms. Frazier? Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Lee?
Here.
Mr. Lewis? Ms. Perkins? Reverend Starling?
Here.
Mayor Figueredo?
Here.
Committeewoman Delasport? Ms. Ricketts?
Here.
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Chairman Bowser?
Here. We have a quorum. At this time, can we swear in the engineer?
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give the board tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And please state your name for the record.
Jason Klein, C-L-I-N-E.
Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, we have approval of the minutes. However, the minutes for the October 27th meeting is not available, so we're going to carry that until the December 19th meeting. Next, we have new business, application 20-22-13, Little. Would the representative for that application please come forward?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and board members. Stephen Hale, representing the applicant Lidl Supermarkets. And thank you so much. At the last hearing, we put our presentation in, and there were some questions that were raised by the board, and we appreciate the time that you gave us to do that. We also appreciate the board accommodating us with a site plan subcommittee meeting where we went through the signage that we were proposing and exchanged some ideas. What I'd like to do is just touch on again the two issues that we're seeking and the relief that we're seeking. The first is the addition of a second wall sign on the eastern facade of the building. As you recall, we were looking to add a sign above the cart corral that says Food Market. And we discussed this during the site plan subcommittee, and we'll have going to recall our engineer to show some exhibits, but just it's not the maximum sign area that we're seeking relief from, it's the number of signs. And you see on a lot of the buildings throughout the municipality and the township, there's multiple signs. But just to put it in perspective, the allowable sign area on that side of the building is 746 square feet. What we're proposing in the two signs is 105 square feet. So it's much less than what the sign would be permitted. And you'll see from the exhibit, you could have a sign that carries 75% of the building wall. We feel that breaking up the two signs works nicely. One of the issues that was discussed, however, is that Union Township has a prohibition against canopy-type signs. And we did discuss this at the site plan subcommittee, and we'll have an exhibit. We will agree to actually mount that sign on the building, so it's not on the, and we discussed it with Mr. Klein during the site plan subcommittee. So we are willing to mount that sign on the building, eliminating one of the variances. Again, the square footage, and even the square footage on the front sign, front area, which is, we're not seeking relief from now. That was previously granted, but that's, again, well below the sign, square footage of permittable signage. So in a few minutes, I'll call up our engineer, and he'll just show those exhibits. But again, for the wall sign, it's just putting that Food Market identification on the side of the building, again, well less. The second sign that we're seeking, as you know from our presentation, is the ground sign. Yes, we acknowledge that we do need a variance for the second type sign. We do have the freestanding sign, which identifies our driveway. And you'll see again from the exhibit, we view the ground sign more of a, and they call them many times a monument sign, more of a monument as to the identification of Lidl, its presence in the Township of Union. And when you look at that area, you have a very large expanse of grass. I think there's a there's a pump, there's some sort of little pump station or something that's got some landscaping around it. But we really feel that this is a very nice architectural feature with, now, your grounds, I mean, your freestanding sign, yes, that identifies the entrance into this site. But right in the middle of the site there, in that large expanse of grass, rather than just an area of grass, we're going to have nice landscaping. It already is nicely landscaped on the other portion, on the other side of the driveway. But we would have the monument sign there with, again, some beautiful landscaping. And we were kicking around on the team. We talked about, and I think Graham had talked about it when he was here last, how this is a very important store in the Lidl chain. It was one of their, certainly it was one of the first in the area. I know when I came before this board, it was new to everyone. But we also feel, and again, and you'll see from the exhibit, this is a nice testament to their presence in Union Township. And I was saying, we kicked it around after the site plan subcommittee that we would also welcome the ability to put on the sign Union Township to further identify Lidl's presence in Union Township. So you would have, the Lidl logo and the ground sign, nice landscaping and lighting around it, and then further identifying Union Township. So when people go by, hey, Union Township Lidl. So that's an overview of the relief, again, that we're seeking. And what I'd like to do, if there are no preliminary questions, is recall Andrew O'Malley, our engineer, to just take us through again the exhibits that we presented at the site plan subcommittee and some of the other items.
Thank you, Mr. Hill.
No, thank you. Sorry for rambling on, but I'm a lawyer. So.
Mr. O'Malley, I'll swear you in again. Raise your right hand, please. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And would you just mind spelling your name for the record?
Andrew O'Malley, ANDREW, O''MALLEY.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. O'Malley, you've been previously obviously sworn and accepted as an expert in the field of engineering. Heard obviously my opening statement. If you could, let's focus first on the wall sign that's proposed, the additional wall sign.
Sure. So in order to help discuss, I think, the wall sign changes that we made, the subcommittee will remember from our meeting on the 15th that we used an exhibit. I'd like to just mark this exhibit as we open it up here. I believe we ended with A2 at our last hearing, so we'll start with Exhibit A3.
Thank you.
Okay. And this is the allowable signage exhibit. A bunch of stuff going on here.
Probably if you want to focus in on the upper one, that would be helpful.
Yeah. So what we're looking at, this is dated November 15th, 2022. For this exhibit, the top, what we're looking at here, the top facade, and I can zoom in here so we can look at it. The top of this exhibit is a rough rendering of what the facade of the east side of the building looks like, prepared by the architect. And you can see on this, we've got two real things shown. First is the proposed signage, which is on the left, starting from left to right, the existing Lidl logo sign. In addition to that, we have the food market sign that was previously noted to be above the cart corral. Now, as Steve mentioned earlier, and Lidl has agreed to make this change, we heard the feedback from the board that we really want that sign off the canopy and on the building, so that sign can be pushed onto the building without any real issue on Lidl's part.
Oh, and I also forgot to mention, that additional sign, Jason was kind enough to point out, that's now been removed. I think it was put on there from the grand opening and never removed, so that's been done.
Yeah, just to clarify, at the entrance of the site, there was, I think it might have been left over from a grand opening, there was a non-permitted sign that's been removed after the hearing, because it was brought up at the hearing. So on this eastern facade of the building, you can see a large red square. Now that red square is the size that would be an allowable building-mounted sign per the ordinance. Now that is, as Steve mentioned earlier in the testimony here, that's approximately 746 square feet. So we're at about 14% of the allowable signage area with these two proposed signs. And that's similar to the south side of the building. South side's got about half, a little less than half of what's allowed in terms of signage. So I don't think that we really received feedback that the area of the sign was a problem, but I think it's important to highlight that Lidl has a pretty understated signage package on the building as compared to what's allowable on that building.
Yeah. And then if you could just briefly identify, I don't know if you have another exhibit, identify where that sign will be, the food market sign is proposed to be relocated?
Sure. I mean, I can zoom in a little bit further. It really is just proposed to be moved slightly. There we go. They're looking, just framing the building there. It's just above its previous location on the brick facade of the building.
And I guess where it was previously, it's out further along the cart corral.
Right, and the cart corral extended approximately 10 feet out into the sidewalk. Now this is just going to be mounted right to the face of the building.
Okay. So the sign size and all will remain exactly as indicated here.
That's correct. So any of the proposed site plan documents you previously received or any exhibits we prepared as part of this application, all the signage areas have been consistent throughout and have not changed in their size
Okay.
since we've proposed them. If there are no other questions about the building mounted signage, I think we can take a quick look at what the front of the building looks like. I know a lot of us drive 22 all the time.
Mr.
but-
Bryan, there are a couple questions. I have a couple questions.
Sure,
for you.
of course.
Which part of the property is this located on? Is this viewable from Route 22?
Correct, this is viewable from Route 22.
And is it viewable eastbound and westbound?
It'd just be viewable eastbound.
Okay. What type of lighting?
Excuse me, westbound.
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 Okay. What type of lighting will be facilitated in order to highlight the signage here?
So this sign is internally illuminated.
Internally illuminated?
All of Lidl's signs are internally illuminated.
How bright
they're
will the lightage be?
Excuse me?
How bright will the lightage be?
I don't know the lumens offhand.
Okay.
I can get a foot candle reading if you'd like, though.
No, the reason I asked that, that's a lot of area here, and I want to make sure that we're not creating a hazard if the light is too bright for the motorists that are traveling east and westbound. So I have a little, it's just plain devil's advocate for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And again, we're not proposing that large strip. Yeah, just the food market sign.
All right.
Absolutely.
It's the long rectangle, that's not it.
That's illustrative to show how large a sign we could put. So that's not being proposed. That's
Okay.
just to show what we're proposing is, when you look at that, just that food market sign that was proposed to be above the cart corral is now going on the building.
Okay.
Now, we're not putting a sign along that whole side.
Thank you for clarifying that. That's actually what I was getting at.
Okay. I'm glad you asked. All
Any
right.
further questions from the board?
And this, again, we're just focusing right now on that. We thought we'd break it into the two. And this does, and Mr. Klein will, guys, confirm that this eliminates the variance for the canopy sign.
Right.
And I think I mentioned at the last hearing, when we discussed it during the site plan subcommittee, the canopy signs, the genesis of that was when people were putting awning signs on, let's say, fabric, and then they would become tattered, and, but regardless of that, we took the feedback that we received and are going to move it to the building if the board is kind enough to approve it. Again, well below what's permitted by way of area.
Just because it's on the exhibit, and there was a question earlier, the south elevation, which is on the bottom side of the page here, same situation. That red box is what would be allowable, and what's shown in color, the food market and Lidl logo, is what's proposed out there today. Okay?
Jason, you?
Quick question on the example, the red bar on the eastern facade. I can't read the number for the length of that. Is it 165?
It's 100, I believe it's 185. Let me check. It's 186.5 feet. It was approximately 75% of the building length.
Okay, and that's 4 feet tall, and the existing Lidl sign on that facade is 8 feet tall.
The logo signs are approximately 8 by 8. That's correct.
I was asking that because I think you just confirmed that if you were to draw a rectangle around the Lidl sign and enclosing the food market sign and considering that as the square footage, you would still be below what you were allowed. in terms of square
Significantly,
footage.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah, we'd be at approximately like 14% of what's allowed.
Some of the places that I serve in this function, you have to draw a rectangle around your signage.
Oh, I get it, yeah.
And consider that as your square footage, regardless of the shape.
If you'd like
And
us
in
to do that,
that
we
case,
can.
I believe you still would be under what you're allowed on that facade.
If you'd like, we can get you that number, just so you have it. Okay.
It's so far below, yeah.
All right. Okay. If we'd like to move on, we can.
We can now move on to the request for the monument sign.
All right, so the monument sign, I think this might actually help a little bit with what's viewable from the Lidl facade. This exhibit is the existing conditions photos exhibit. I'll mark this as Exhibit A4. This is dated November 15th, 2022. And this exhibit just shows two street view photographs of the Lidl building as it exists today. The first at the top is showing Lidl from the east side. You can see that eastern elevation. If we were to zoom in on the Lidl building, you can see the area where there is currently no sign present for food market, but we would like to propose a wall-mounted food market sign on that brick facade above the cart corral. So just to kind of highlight what was happening as part of the wall-mounted signage. Now, the reason I brought this exhibit up is you can kind of see that Lidl has made an effort as part of the initial application to add a large amount of landscaping along the frontage. You can see it to the right side of the page, where there are, existing shrubs, grasses, ornamental grasses. And on the left side of that egress driveway, by the south facade of the building, there's just kind of a large expanse of grass. And at this point in time, that is the proposed location of the monument sign that has the Lidl logo on it and food and wine. Now, as part of this, I think this application, it's important to note that all the landscaping being proposed is really to help beautify the area. This is, I believe, the largest expanse of grass on Route 22 in this area, especially with the developments to either side of Lidl having multiple monument signs, multiple building-mounted signs. We really wanted to, if we were going to propose this, make sure there's something nice that goes along with it for the township. Because I think Lidl's been more than charitable with the town in trying to make the changes that the town has. So just to quickly highlight it, I think there's 12 Blue Pacific junipers, 180 gallons of daylilies, 12 gallons of feather reeds, all just around that monument sign. And with the movement of the pylon sign, there's an addition of 80 gallons of daylilies, 12 gallons of feather reed grass, 6 inkberry hollies, and 5 blue mist spireas. So there is a substantial amount of landscaping helping with that frontage of the site here. And I think, to Steve's point earlier, this is really a monument to Lidl and a statement that they're in union.
Okay. And maybe if you could zoom in a little bit in that area and
Sure.
just.
I think if we can either go down, Steve,
Oh,
here,
yeah, just generally show where that would be located.
and where my cursor is hovering now, what you can see is just west of the egress driveway is the location, this big empty grass space, for lack of better terms, is where the monument is proposed. And again, that is the same approximately 6 feet tall by 9 feet wide monument sign with the legal logo on it.
And with the expansive landscaping.
And the landscape bed around it. And that's the same landscaping bed that's been on the original set of site plan documents that was submitted about a month or two ago.
Okay. Would the board want to see that?
Yes, would you show that?
Yeah, if you could just put that sign with the landscaping.
Sure. Would you like to look at the detail of the sign?
No, I
or-
think perhaps the site plan focused
The
in on
site
that
plan.
area.
Sure. Let me just get this correct here. I believe this is it. All right. And this was previously introduced as Exhibit A1 on the original hearing. And this site plan is sheet 2 of the set that was proposed. So if we zoom in to the frontage of the site, you can see both the pylon sign surrounded by landscaping beds and connecting to the existing landscaping beds on either side of this landscaped island with the central landscaping piece. And then again, on the left of the page here, just west of the egress driveway, there's the monument sign and its landscaping proposed around
Okay.
it.
And if you could focus, perhaps bring us a little closer in there.
Sure. Focusing on the monument sign first.
Yeah, I think that's the one we need, yeah.
That's good there.
And if you could briefly describe what the it's a little hard to see. If you
Sure.
could focus in a little bit more and tell us the type of landscaping.
Sure. So the 12 blue Pacific junipers are on either side of the monument sign. It's the most pop of color you'll get during the year. Those gallons I was talking about of daylilies are going to be flowering plants. I mean, the Lidl landscaping team, I think, has done a pretty good job of maintaining those plants that are out there right now. There are also some perennials that'll be there all year round. So I think this plan really does highlight, it's a typical monument sign package, but it does, keep the plantings below the height of the sign, so they're not going to get overgrown. Lidl won't have to do too much in that regard. And I think this really adds a lot to the area.
Can you show us what's going to actually be on the sign?
Sure. I think the best plan to look at then would be our detail sheet. I don't believe this has ever been introduced, so I'll take a quick look. This is Exhibit A4. This is the detail sheet, sheet 3 of the signage package that was submitted. And if we zoom in,
Pardon me, I think it's A5.
A5.
Yes.
I apologize. Thank you. Now this sign here that I've zoomed in on is the proposed monument sign that has the Lidl logo, food market to be consistent with the rest of the signage, and beer and wine. And I believe, Steve, you mentioned earlier
Yeah,
that Lidl would like to add Township of Union to the bottom of this sign as well.
How does that differ from the ground sign that we currently gave approval to, the sign here?
The pylon sign.
The pylon sign, yes.
So the pylon sign that was originally approved just had the Lidl logo on it.
Okay,
I believe it was identified by the board engineer earlier that what's actually installed out today actually has beer and wine beneath it as well. Otherwise, that sign is the same size as it's existed
but it has
since,
beer and wine on it,
very similar to the monument sign.
so it's somewhat redundant, right?
Excuse me?
They're somewhat redundant in
Sure, I would use the word consistent. Redundant is another word that would get the job done. So that is all the signage that's proposed.
Yeah. As I said, I think if you go back to the monument site, we could, again, nicely fit the township inscription on that sign.
Back to the monument sign here.
Yeah.
So I have a question regarding the monument sign. Will that also be lit?
The monument sign is also internally illuminated.
Okay. And again, with the brightness of it to,
I can get a readout of what the foot candles are in an area around. We'll do a photometric plan if you'd like. We can make sure there's no adverse effect to the public.
Yeah.
okay.
That certainly comply with any ordinance provisions.
Of course.
Mr. O'Brien, at the grass area where you noted in your presentation, who holds title to that grass area? Does Lidl hold title to that?
Part of that grass area is Lidl, and the other part would be the right-of-way. But I do believe Lidl maintains the entire grass area.
Are you sure about that?
I'm not 100% sure.
No, they maintain it, yeah.
Oh, they certainly maintain their property.
Yeah, I think
I'm not sure if the DOT
that
has-
area might be about 10 feet, 15 feet back. Do we have it on the?
We have the property line on the
Yeah,
previous
let's-
exhibit we looked at. So on the site plan, I've swapped back to the site plan, which was previously A1. You can see the frontage here, this thick black line south of the building that my
that's
cursor is
helpful,
hovering over
yeah.
is the property line.
Right.
So it's about 20 feet from the property line to the curb line of the road. But I believe, and we can check with Lidl's building managers, whether or not they maintain the entirety of that.
The reason why I ask is that if Lidl doesn't have title to the property that you're going to be making these changes to, then that's,
Well,
you might want to,
the sign and all of the improvements are on Lidl's property,
you're sure about that?
100%.
Yeah, that dark black line is
Apologize,
the
we have
prop
to-
line?
We have to comply with all the setback requirements for the sign, otherwise that would be a
wanna make sure
variance. Thank you.
We've only had that come up sometimes when people ask for a change. You say, well, by the way, your sign actually isn't on your property. So that's come up.
I'll make sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good point.
For the board's reference, it's 20 feet, the property line is 20 feet into the grass when manually scaled.
Okay. Yeah, that's helpful, thanks.
Now, does that, I'm sorry to be flying the ointment here. Does that mean that what they're putting on is on their property?
Correct, yes.
Perfect, thank you very much.
You got it.
All right, I have no further preliminary questions of Mr. O'Malley at this time.
further questions from the board?
Just a few questions. You mentioned about the monument sign being amended to include Township of Union name on it. If we can go back to the exhibit that has the sign with the original design, would the inclusion of the mentioning of the Township of Union change the dimensions of the sign itself?
I think at this point, it's unclear if Lidl.
No, the size of the sign.
Oh,
That's going to remain the same,
oh,
right?
the sign will remain the same, yes.
We're not making it any
The
bigger.
overall dimensions will not increase, but we can reduce the size of this, the branding on the sign to make room for Township of Union.
I'm sorry, I'm a little bit blind, but I'm trying, what's the dimension from the ground to basically the bottom of the sign?
Per the sign's detail, it's about 1 foot and 3/4 inch.
1 foot and 3/4 inches. Okay. If we can go back to the site map plan, I had a couple questions with regards to the big grassy area.
Yes.
Can you just summarize again, what kind of shrubs, what kind of plants would be used for that grassy area?
So the only shrubs that are proposed are around the sign, but that is,
Oh, okay.
that would be daylilies, feather reed grass, and juniper, and all of those will stay below 2 to 3 feet. They could be pruned even lower if we need them to, but their mature planting height is approximately 2 to 3 feet high.
So if I'm looking correctly here, in the middle here, that large grassy area, it seems like there's one patch on the left, and then there's like this curved area in the middle, and then you have the freestanding, the pylon sign at the end. Are all those also shrubberies, plants, things of that nature as well?
That's correct. They're also filled with a number of ornamental grasses, shrubs, perennials, annuals. There are 2 trees in that area as well, but they are similar species. So they, as I mentioned with the pylon sign, they do share some species. So the feather reed grass is in there, and the daylilies are also in there. So it's a consistent frontage.
So it's pretty much consistent to the plants around
Correct.
the monument sign? Okay.
Very similar.
And you said that they can grow between 2 to 3 feet, and the trees that you mentioned, where are the trees located on the site map?
Those are, if we were to zoom in, that central landscaping area on either side of what I can only describe as a ellipse, maybe, in the center. On the ends, there's a tree on each side.
On the end, so is it that? It looks almost like
A larger circular
Yeah.
mass.
So those are where the trees are.
Correct. And I can check in on the actual species, but I believe they're smaller, more ornamental trees.
Okay. Can you approximate how high are those trees?
I would be doing you a disservice by guessing. I think they're probably about 8 feet, maybe.
Around 8 feet, okay. And then at the freestanding sign, and I just want to make sure I understand where the location is, at the bottom right there, what's the setback from the sign from the road? 5 feet?
To the property line, it's 5 feet.
It's 5 feet.
And again, just to refresh our memory, the property line is approximately 20 feet from the curb line of the road.
And so monument side, you said 20 feet from the road?
Correct.
Okay.
So in total, setback from the curb line of the road, this pylon sign is about 25 feet.
And the monument sign, it's the angle in relation to to Route 22. It seems like it's perpendicular 90 degrees from the road, right?
That is correct.
It's not slanted towards the road. Okay.
That is correct. And that's how it exists today, and it's proposed for when we put it the other side of the drive aisle.
So here's kind of the million-dollar question. With the freestanding sign where it is, where it's approved, and then you have 2 of the trees in the grassy area, you also have some shrubbery that at times can grow to 2 to 3 feet, and then you have the monument sign perpendicular with a setback that's farther out than the freestanding sign. What would be the what would be the realistic chance that someone who's driving westbound on 22 be able to see that sign?
We think it's a very visible sign. It's the reason it's in the location it is. It's the reason it's actually on the opposite side on the west side of the egress driveway. So if I zoom out on this exhibit to show the entire frontage here, first, that's very important. I think the pylon sign is pretty high in the air. I have to take a look at the exact, I think it's about 20 feet up into the air. So that would not be obstructing any of your view to the monument sign. And similarly, these trees are also set back quite a bit from the property line. So I don't anticipate with their the existing landscaping out there, that there's any visual obstruction to the monument sign. And again, this is, everything's set back anywhere from 20 to 30 feet from the road. I think it gives us a pretty sizable amount. On this exhibit, actually, you can see there is a AASHTO site triangle in a dot hatch. It does help you kind of see what a site visibility would look like, and that's someone 480 feet away. It does have visibility to that stop sign there, which is just adjacent to our proposed monument sign. It starts to give you a little bit of an idea of how much you can really see in our frontage because of how open it is.
Those are my questions.
Thank you.
Further questions from the board? Questions from the public? Mr. Hammond?
Mr. Chairman, again, we have our planner is here. Graham from Lidl is here. Okay. I asked him if he wanted to add anything, but I think he indicated last time. So we have no further witnesses, and if you'd like, I can again briefly sum up. Okay. So, thank you.
Actually, could I ask one more question?
Oh, sure, of course.
Now, you remember, Mr. O'Brien, we met a few weeks ago,
Correct.
and we are now meeting today. Since the last meeting, has Lidl put any other signs up, either on its building or in the area,
No more signs have been added to my knowledge.
to your knowledge? Okay,
No.
thank you.
Yeah.
They did remove that one.
Yeah, there was a removal of the sign.
Previously existing non-permitted sign that was removed.
When was that removed?
I can get the exact date from Graham if you know, but I
I can tell you that was brought up to our facilities team within 24 hours of our meeting. And
Okay.
it was removed within, I think, 5 business days.
no. There you go.
They heard and acted.
We're good, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, again, Mr. Chairman, board members, and board professionals, we truly appreciate, again, the time that the board has spent with us on this application. Again, we're looking for relief for the additional wall sign. I think that eliminating the variance for having it over the cart corral, the quote-unquote awning sign, I think clearly shows that Lidl is working with the township, and it's good to have that additional signage. And again, as we said, it's much, much less, approximately 14% of what would be permitted. And no, Mr. Johnson, we're not going to put that big sign there. It's not needed. And as far as I recognize that we've discussed the monument sign, and when you talk about it is a monument, and I think having it at that location with landscaping, it identifies Lidl. I'm sure everyone has driven by this location. There's signage all up and down Route 22. This is a single tenant, probably one of the largest single occupant, because Lidl did purchase the property from Mac Boring a number of years ago and has made a great investment in the Township of Union. The monument sign, and we've discussed it with the Lidl team, is very important to them to identify that area. And it's not just sticking a sign in the ground. They're landscaping it, lighting it nicely, comply with all lighting and the like. And I think the touch of adding Township of Union to that sign is a nice feature too. When people drive by, oh, there's the Lidl of Union Township. I think that the fact that we do need, I think our planner testified at length at the last hearing. He's here this evening if there were further questions, but I think the justification for that, for both the signs that we're seeking, has been provided. Again, the wall sign having 2 signs as opposed to 1 large sign, much lower in percentage, and having a monument sign which identifies the building. It's the fact that, again, if this was probably a 3 or 4 tenant building, there'd be 5 or 6 different signs out there. It's a nicely sized sign for the size of the property. It's a very large site. And again, as Mr. O'Malley indicated, when you drive up and down 22, this is probably the largest area of grass that's out there, and enhancing it with this nice monument sign and the landscaping, I think, is a benefit. So, again, we request that the board grant us this signage relief that we're seeking, and look forward to Lidl's continued presence in Union Township. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we proceed with the board, I just want to know if there's any questions or comments from the public. At this, yes.
Apologies, Chairman. I did have one comment or question. If the board was to move favorably on this application, does Lidl have a timetable in mind? Because there have been a number of approvals and amendments, and some of them have been approved but haven't been built yet. So I think the board may be curious about if they are successful, when is it going to happen? Because we'd rather not have
Yep.
things like this trail.
Yeah. Graham indicated as soon as possible, assuming in this still day and age, supply chain issues, but no, they want to get it done immediately. And we will also be agreeable, if the board, again, is kind enough to approve the application to submit for resolution compliance, the sign exhibit showing the township on that. So if there's suggestions from the township on how that sign is to look, again, it's going to be no larger, as Mr. Lee had indicated, but we can certainly provide that for the review by the board and the board professionals. So, thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I have a motion to approve this application with the aforementioned stipulations.
Mr. Chairman, before we ask for a I just wanted to share some thoughts on this application. I don't think we're there yet. We're getting close. Ms. Ricketts and I had questions about the lighting. We still don't have an answer to it. Mr. Lee had a question about the size of the bushes in the area. Again, we don't have an answer to it. So I think we're getting there. And Mr. Hale's done an amazingly effective job of representing Lidl. But Mr. O'Brien's testimony is still incomplete. And if we do take, and I say this in the interest of full disclosure, if we do take a vote, I will likely vote only because I don't think we're there yet. We were getting there, but I don't think we're there yet. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments, Jim. Rebuttal?
I mean, I appreciate Ms. Johnson, his comments and kind words too. I mean, perhaps we could just, if that is the case, let me just talk to Graham for a second. I know you're meeting again December.
January.
Aren't you meeting? You have a December
They were
meeting.
voting that possibly not having a meeting in December, so I
Oh,
wouldn't guarantee
okay.
that.
All right. Perhaps we could just go through. Your suggestion is accepted. If the board is in concurrence that we provide some additional information that's been requested. But what would be helpful if we could, perhaps with your board professionals, just as best as possible identify specifically what we're looking for. So I guess I'll try to do that.
It's very simple, Mr.
Okay.
The brightness of the sign, and our concern is just proximity to the roadway. We don't want to inadvertently, although it would be a very attractive site, we really don't want to inadvertently create a hazard for driving.
Okay.
The size of the bushes next to the sign. And that's really that's the two main ones that I have.
Any, I guess, or any other,
Did we get the illumination?
either board profession? Does that cover it? All right, so it's the illumination, the brightness and illumination of the signs.
Yeah, and that's more of a public safety concern, because
Okay.
we don't want to, at night especially, you have traffic lights and high beams and everything. I'm a little concerned about public safety, frankly. So if you can find a definitive answer for that, that would be very helpful
I'm sure.
moving forward.
I'm sure the bowler crew can get on that.
I'm sure that, yeah.
Yeah. All right.
So I'm going to revise the motion. Can I have a motion to carry this application to the next scheduled meeting?
Mr. Chair, I respectfully so move.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Reverend Starling?
Yes.
Mayor Figueredo?
Yes.
Ms. Ricketts?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Bowser?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I guess the question for notice purposes, if you're not going to have, do we carry it to, or are we definitely not having a December? Or should we just carry it to the January meeting and just?
That would be my suggestion, to carry it to the January
Yeah.
meeting.
But we're going to have a new board in January. I don't think we can carry over a year to a new, to January, because it's going to be a new board with a different chairman. I'm not sure that we can do that.
No, you know what, we'll re-notify, that's not a problem. And then we'll supply the
Let us work out the details on that. If we have to have a December meeting, then we'll have to have a December meeting to qualify
we'll figure
this.
that out.
But we-
So what is, well, why don't, if we could then, for purposes of this evening, so we don't have to note, what's the date of the December meeting?
December 19th.
Okay, so can we indicate that it's carried to December 19th unless that meeting is canceled, and then we would re-notify?
yes, let's do it that way.
Okay. All right, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I can't say have a good night because you'll see me in a minute anyway.
Okay, we have another item on the agenda this evening. Will the representative for Proud Papas please come forward?
We got to get Phil back. Jason. I'll wait a minute while there's the changing of the engineer guard.
At this time, can we swear in our engineer?
Mr. Hatterer, would you raise your right hand? Thank you. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give the board tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hale?
Yes, thank you very much. Again, Stephen Hale, representing the applicant Proud Papas LLC, and great to see you all again this evening. This is actually an exciting little tale of the development, and I think it was Mr. Hatter had mentioned to me, and Chris, there he is, that it was approximately 20 years ago that this was converted from the paint store to Proud Papas, and they have a great little business there, not too little, and they're very important to those that have businesses in the area in Union Township and the Chestnut Street corridor. So what's being proposed here is a new mixed-use project. I think you'll see that the improvements to the building are both exciting and in keeping with the ordinance. If you recall, this was in the BB zone, and then this board, in conjunction with the Township Committee, rezoned it to the NC zone, which is the neighborhood core zone, that now permits mixed use along this corridor. So what's being done here is to renovate slightly the downstairs portion of the building. Proud Papas will remain, obviously, but then we're looking to put the second floor with the 3 dwelling units up on the second floor. Very kind of rare when you're before the board and you say, and we actually meet all the parking requirements for under the ordinance. The site certainly fits well with this addition. We've had an opportunity to review Mr. Hatterer's letter. We have no problem complying with those terms and conditions. We will have our engineer take us through that letter, but again, this is, and you'll see it from the renderings, again, just a nice beautification of the building and certainly consistent with the master plan study that was done by the township and then the adopted ordinance. So I think this is, Phil, correct me, it's probably the first mixed-use project coming in under this new ordinance on this corridor.
Yes, this is the first application before the board that
Yeah.
is mixed use.
So what I'd like to do, if there's no preliminary questions, is to call upon Joseph Bacci from EKA, who's our site engineer.
Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give the board tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Would you please spell your name for the record?
Joseph Bacci, Bachi.
And Mr. Bacci, I know you've testified, we've been working together for a while. He's here because Jim Watson is away again. But Mr. Bacci, if you could briefly give the board the benefit of your work, educational experience, area of expertise, and licenses you hold, and whether you've been accepted before other boards or courts of the state of New Jersey.
Sure. I'm a 2012 Rutgers University graduate with a BS in civil engineering. I got my professional license in 2016, so I got about 10 years experience, civil engineering. I've done many site plans like this before. I've testified in Scotch Plains, Plainfield, Garwood, a lot of Union County towns. Haven't had the pleasure to be here yet, but hoping you accept me, and I can have my first one tonight.
The board stipulates.
Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. All right, Mr. Bacci, obviously you heard-
Are we here in engineering
Huh?
plans? Is this ours?
Sal, is that ours now?
Everything's in the folders.
Okay.
Beautiful.
Right. So, Mr. Bacci, if you could take us through your plans identifying existing conditions, the general area, and then we can move on to what's proposed by way of improvements.
So this will be Exhibit A1. Is this one sheet or multiple sheets?
This is the site plans that were submitted. I think it's just
So we're going to call A1 the set of site plans.
Site plans.
the
Great,
site plan
thank you.
sheets.
All right, I'll start with the existing conditions. I'm just going to scroll down to the last page. Excuse me. No. So this is the existing conditions. This is our survey dated 3/9/2022. So the site, it's 11,000, about 11,000 square feet site. Consists of, as Mr. Heel mentioned, a 1.5-story frame building that's currently pizzeria, Proud Papa's. To the west of that, you have a asphalt paved parking lot, 8 spaces, and then 2 spaces down here that wrap around the building. It's generally rectangular in shape, about 80 feet by 140 feet. Generally a flat site. On an assumed datum, it ranges from elevation 104 on the east side here and slopes down to about elevation 100 in this northwest corner. In terms of existing, grading and drainage, you have all the stormwater just flowing off-site, sheet flow right off there. You got 2 curb cuts on Leo Place for exiting and entering and exiting the site. So here where my cursor is and down here where my cursor is. Pretty basic site. That's basically it for existing conditions. Actually, just this will come up later. Trash enclosure. Right now, trash is a enclosure right here on the building, on the west side. Want to go into
Okay,
proposed?
and then, again, I know most of the work that's being done here is architectural standpoint, but take us through, yes, the site improvements.
Yeah, that's true. It's mostly architectural, but we'll run through some of the site improvements. Really restripping the parking lot, confirming, number of spaces. You'll have 8 here, reducing to 7 on this side for a little access way over here into the building. Bringing the site up to ADA compliance. There's a proposed ADA ramp in this northeast corner here, as well as, ADA compliant spaces down here. 2 spots down there, 1 ADA. Small building addition on the west side here. Sorry, let me close that so you guys can see. So a small addition here. Architectural will go into that a little bit more. A new trash enclosure here, so it gets pushed out a little bit. Parking spaces are, I don't know if we're going to get to that later, or
No, you can,
all right, they're all, per RSIS, except for these 2 here, where the proposed trash enclosure is, and that's just so we can fit that trash enclosure. So these are about a foot short of, they should be 20 feet per code. Just looking for relief there, just for these two spots, about a foot. And that's the extent of the site changes.
Okay. And you've had an opportunity to review the Collier's letter. Any problem complying with any of those terms and conditions?
No, no problem. They were generally pretty minor and no problem conforming.
Okay. And just a couple of items. The sanitary sewer, there's a question, will this have any impact? Would we need a TWA? And we could just touch upon the trash enclosure.
Yeah, there's going to be no impact. We're not going to need a treatment works approval there. It's, threshold there's 8,000. We're well below that. And then the trash enclosure, we do have a drain shown right here in the middle of it. I think it's actually pointed out on the...
But we'll comply. I know Union Township has a requirement that they be covered and have a drain, and we'll comply with that condition.
Yeah, currently our plan doesn't show a covered trash enclosure. We'll comply with that and cover it. There is a proposed drain in the trash enclosure here, which is going to tie into the sanitary lateral and be taken off-site. Okay.
And then also, there was a request to provide a lighting plan. Any problem with agreeing to provide that?
Yeah, we're going to provide a lighting plan. Our plan is to go out there and take measurements of what the foot candles are existing, and we'll put that together in another drawing and add that to the set.
Okay. And then I assume that there'd be no problem making, if the board approves this, that a condition of approval.
No problem.
Okay.
And
Also,
if we do have to change the lighting, we will, of course.
Okay.
If the existing conditions don't comply with.
and we'll agree that we'll comply with whatever the lighting requirement is.
Yes.
Also, there was a question with respect to confirmation on 6.2 as to the FAR, floor area ratio, and density.
Yeah, we're well below. The FAR requirement was 90%. We're at, I believe, 57%. Let me just double check, sorry. And the zoning table is, as you know, we're in a new zone now. So there's some variances shown here that are not required anymore. But yeah, FAR proposing 56.8%. The new requirement, I understand, is 90%, so well below that. In terms of density, 20 units per acre, we're about a quarter acre, so 5 units would be allowed. We're only proposing 3.
Okay. And then just touching on the other technical comments, I think you indicated parking lot is going to be repaved and restriped.
Mill and pave and restripe.
Okay.
And we meet the parking requirements in terms of number of spaces as well.
Okay. Also, there's a question as to, or asking for testimony regarding adequacy of existing utilities, water, gas, electric.
Yeah, there's going to be minimal impact on the utilities, and there'll be adequate capacity.
Okay. And I think Mr. Dantis will testify as to the proposed signage, but I think indicated then any signage would comply with the ordinance.
Yes.
And then finally, there's a comment that the concrete aprons appear cracked on Leo Place, and they would be, assume as part of the parking lot work, they would also be addressed.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And I know that we're also obtaining the county planning board approval, even though we front on a county road, but we don't ingress and egress to a county road.
Right,
Okay.
that's correct.
All right. I have no further questions, preliminary questions of Mr. Bocci at this time.
Questions from the board? Any questions on the parking, Phil?
Yeah, my comment, 1.11.
Did I miss one there, Phil?
If you could just point on your plan sheet where this design waiver is being requested.
That 1.11?
1.11.
Okay. That's the
Oh,
front yard setback.
Yeah, it's an existing variance there, so we're just planning on not changing the site much, so seeking relief there. Sorry, can't work this mouse.
I think, actually, I think you can use, Sal, you can use your finger on the screen, I believe. Does it work?
Yeah, so, I mean, we're not changing the layout of the building or anything aside from the small addition in the center of the site up here. So your setbacks, you're kind of, you know, it's an existing condition down here on the west side or east side.
What is the parking setback at the rear of the building?
It's about over here, up top, sorry. 2.74,
No, no,
sorry.
at the rear of the building.
Oh, excuse me. Don't think we have that called out here. I'll have to get back to you on that,
This
sorry.
is my concern. I think to the extent that any of those spaces butt up to the building wall or any portion of the building, you should have wheel stops installed to prevent an impact between the vehicle and any portion of the building.
Okay, I think we can comply with that.
Yeah. That's a good suggestion.
Yeah, so up here against the building. I guess these two, where my cursor is, they got the trash enclosure there, so I wouldn't imagine putting them there, obviously. But
Yeah,
just, you know, because,
yeah. I
but yeah,
think-
but you're talking these two buildings here?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we can comply with that.
Okay. So that would be 4 of those spaces then.
Well, I guess these, 1, 2, these have the trash enclosure, proposed trash enclosure here. Yeah, I guess, I'm just worried about if you have guys going in there and out of there, potential tripping hazard or something, and opening the gate and everything. I imagine they're gonna have dumpsters there too, so, you know, that's gonna prevent,
Yeah, I think the concern is for the building and not the...
Oh, those gates going to clear, they will stop, which is typically
okay.
4 to 5 inches.
All right, yeah, we can make that work then, yeah,
Okay?
sure.
So that's 4 spaces?
Yeah, those 4.
We'll work with Mr. Hatter on
Yeah,
on
I mean,
that
that's not a
design.
problem.
Further questions from the board? Questions from the public? Can you come forward, please, and state your name and address? Yes, please.
My name's Tim Sturritz. I live on 188 Leo.
Sir, would you mind spelling your name for the record? I'm going to
Sure.
swear you in.
It's Timothy, Timothy,
Uh-huh.
Stirritz.
Do you swear or affirm that any testimony you give the board tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And would you mind restating your address?
188 Leo.
Thank you.
I just have a quick question about the parking.
Sure.
You say you have the 8 spots in the back there.
Mhm.
Would the 3 residential units, are they going to be reserved for the residential units? Because that would be potential 6 more cars on the street that has no parking already.
That I'm not sure of, I'd have to ask, Steve, you might know?
From an operational standpoint, we haven't made a decision on whether or not tenants, we would allocate spaces to them. We're going to see how it works. But we're not seeking a parking variance. But that's good.
That was
We
my
did-
only question.
We did
Yeah,
kick it
yeah.
around.
This is a lot of parking on that street.
No,
I
yeah.
appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you for your question. Another question, please, come forward. State your name and address, please.
Ms. Schoenwalder, would you kindly raise your right hand? I'm going to swear you in. Do you swear or affirm that the, any testimony you're going to give tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? And I'm sorry, but would you mind spelling your name for the record, please? Spell your name.
I'll be all night.
I'm sorry.
SCHOENWALDER.
And where do you live, Ms. Schoenwalder?
Townley Avenue in Union.
Okay.
Townley.
Thank you so much.
I don't have a problem, I don't have a question. I just want to say, Chris reminded me that 20 years ago, my husband sat here while they did his first application to do what he needed to do to open the store. And for 20 years, we've been neighbors, as close as you can get. Very good neighbors, never had any problems with him, never had any noise problems or garbage or can't think of any other problem. So it's nice to see that he's able to grow, hopefully, with your approval. And I don't see him socially, so this, he didn't ask me to do this, but I thought, Union, we can be proud of him. Thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Additional questions from the public? If not, we can move on.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Bracci. I'd like to now call upon Paolo Dantas, our architect for the project. And by the way, I do remember being here with Paul, her husband, great man. Was 20 years ago.
Sir, would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give the board tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes,
Please spell your name for the record.
sure. My name is Paulo Dantas, first name Paulo, last name Dantas, Dantas.
Thank you.
And Mr. Dantas, if you could briefly give the board your credentials, area of expertise, license. I think you've been before this board before.
I have. Graduated from the New Jersey Institute of Technology in 2002, Bachelor's of Architecture degree, been licensed since 2007. I am the owner and partner of Dantas Correct, located on 427 Chestnut Street. My license is current and have testified previously in Union.
Board stipulates.
Great, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. All right, Mr. Dantas, we know the focus of this application is on, a lot of it's on the architectural aspects. If you could take us through what we're proposing here, and both by way of floor plans, and I see you've already put up the elevation. I don't know if you want to start there.
So we'll mark this sheet A2?
Great.
It's the whole set.
The set, got you.
Yes.
Okay. I think you have an exhibit with an existing and then proposed floor plans. And then we can move on to the elevations and then the rendering.
Sure. So the scope of work is we're doing a partial rear addition of approximately 165 feet, along with some interior alterations to the existing first floor plan, 2,927 square feet, and we're looking to add a second-story addition of approximately 3,000 square feet to the second floor. Sheet A2 on the proposed first floor plan. We have approximately 3,064 square feet, which includes the rear addition of 165 square feet. Our existing basement will remain as is. Only the additional portion in the back will be added onto it. The proposed first floor will consist of the existing pizzeria to remain. The interior alterations is going to accommodate for 2 retail spaces. The retail space number 1 will be the existing pizzeria. Will consist of a vestibule, the pizza ovens, and counter and service area. We also going to have the kitchen area still to remain, bathrooms, corridors, and definitely will still maintain the rear stair access as well as basement stair access. The second retail space, we are proposing an area of approximately 588 square feet. This will consist of a vanilla box finish with an ADA bathroom. The proposed residential vestibule will be located at the side of the building adjacent to the existing parking lot, and the proposed vestibule will accommodate for an enclosed staircase as well as mailboxes that will be large enough to accommodate for bulk deliveries such as Amazon and UPS and FedEx. On the second floor, The second floor, we are proposing 3 residential apartments. Apartment A is approximately 1,112, that's towards the back, will consist of 2 bedrooms, walk-in closets, 1 bathroom, open floor plan concept with kitchen, dining, and living, along with laundry closet, storage, and mechanical room. Apartment B, located towards the front, 800 square feet in approximate. Again, it will consist of 1 bedroom, walk-in closets, 1 bathroom, open plan concept, dining, living, along with laundry and storage mechanical. And apartment C kind of follows the same. It's a 732 square foot apartment consisting of the 1 bedroom, walk-in closet, 1 bathroom, open plan concept, and of course the laundry and mechanical room. We have enclosed the staircase, which will provide not only the egress and accessibility to the ground and the parking. The roof access will be provided. Final location is still pending on coordinating with the mechanical engineer. Our proposed roof plan, we are looking to provide not only existing mechanical shafts that are currently at the existing facility, but also propose new top units, rooftop units, and condensing units for the new apartments. We're looking to provide a low slope pitch with parapets on the 3 walls, and the roof will be pitching towards the rear of the building as it is existing. In our elevation, the total height of the proposed approximate height is 29 feet, 4 inches to the top of the parapet currently. What we tried to do is take the existing first floor brick and window locations or to remain. The emphasis on the retail entrance were by extending the brick above the first floor slightly, providing also a horizontal band in material of synthetic wood siding to create a separation between the retail and the residential spaces. Thus, the built-out coping at the top provides the cap for the building design. The second floor material, we are proposing hardy board siding, has been provided to distinguish the difference between the retail and the residential areas. The elements provided, we feel that is going to create a more cohesive design by providing not only with the materials and the created projections, some of the recessed planes in the facades. Scale and proportion has been considered in our design on the facade designs. Eliminating the monolithic and continuous of the structure was intended, although Chestnut Street is the prominent building elevations. We are proposing that both front elevations will be constructed with the same level of architectural design and use of materials on both facades. The architectural characteristics and material selections are based not only on aesthetics of the existing neighborhood and also the current design trends throughout the township. And if I may, can I put the rendering up? Sure. Okay.
We should probably mark that A3 for the rendering.
What is Exhibit A3?
What is a
What is it? Yeah. What,
rendering? He's going to...
a rendering.
Colored rendering, yes.
Yeah, I apologize. It was not in the exhibit. And this is kind of the rendition of colors or similar colors that we're proposing at the facility. So you can see that the first floor is pretty much all existing with the brick. We're just looking to tone it to a different color, and then everything above it will be new and constructed new materials. I think that does it for my testimony.
And from an architectural standpoint, any problem complying with any of the terms and conditions in the Collier review letter that we discussed previously?
Yes, I think there was just a couple of questions on it. On 2.1, regarding to the ADA, we have 3 apartments, so that does not need to have an ADA vertical accessibility for the building. And regarding to 6.5 in the signage, will comply and meet all the section 170-1407. I mean 05, sorry, apologize.
Okay. Thank you. I have no further questions of Mr. Dantas at this time.
Can you give us the overall height of the facility?
Currently, so I just wanted to bring it up. So currently, we have at 29 feet and 4 inches to the top of the parapet, correct? We are not looking to exceed whatever the limits are. What I was looking for that parapet to do is, once I have these rooftop units, which I haven't determined the sizes or the necessities that we're looking for prop office, is I'm wondering if I need to raise it a little bit more or less just to create some type of screening, so we don't see these units from down on the bottom.
That was my
Mr.
next
Chairman?
concern would be, would those units be visible
Yeah,
from the street?
I would definitely
Chairman,
want
to
to.
answer the question on the allowable building height in the
Yes.
NC zone, it's 35 feet.
So we definitely will be way under that. It's just that my concern is more trying to keep it as low as possible, but also trying to screen those units as well, rooftop units.
Okay. I know you didn't give testimony to this, but in regards to the garbage storage area, is that enclosed?
So we had a couple conversations. We are going to enclose it with a roof, and also the perimeter will also be CMU. So yes, we are looking to enclose that.
Further questions from the board? Questions from the public? Mr. Hale?
Yes. Now, I'd like to briefly call upon, thanks, Paolo. Not yet, Nick. You have to have Chris. Mr. Graviano's jumping the gun here. I'd like to briefly call upon the owner, Chris DeJesu, who hates public speaking. But
Hate it. Detest.
Sir, will you raise your right hand, please?
Sure.
Will you raise your right hand? Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give the board tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
And would you mind spelling your name, please?
CHRIS, last name DIGESU.
Thank you.
Okay. And, Mr. Jesu, I know we had a nice testament by the Schoenwalder. If you could just briefly give a little bit of a history of, oh wait, we got the legal, a little bit of history of your acquisition of the property and a little bit about the Proud Papa's business there.
Back in 2002, I was driving by that site and saw a for rent sign on it, and I was like, ooh, there's a place I could go to, because I was outgrowing my current location down the block of 517, right next to the Boston Market. And they weren't going to rent it, they were going to sell it. So then negotiations, and we bought it, we got there, we renovated it, and ever since it's been a great move for me. Bigger, I like the corner spot of it, I love the building, always have. And looking
That was
at-
the paint store, right?
It was a Felix Fox paint store for years. Before that, it was a swimming pool store. It's been, I don't know what it was before that, but that's as far back as I go in town, 54 years. Yeah, so I was looking into renovating it, and someone had said that if you really want to make it look nice, put a second floor on it. Okay, we can go that route.
All right, so, and we know, as I explained, that the zoning changed, and Chris took this opportunity to embark upon this project and make this investment. Just a little bit by way of testimony, so the board can appreciate. I know we're not seeking a parking variance, but just generally, what are your hours of operation?
7 days a week, 11 to 10.
That's why you get tired. And then approximately, I know, obviously you being right up the street from our building, a lot of your business is takeout as opposed to dine-in. What's the, I think you indicated it's about 70 to 80% of your business is takeout?
Yeah, takeout and delivery together are over 95%. 2% is dine-in.
Yeah, okay. And you don't have a delivery, people utilize an app or pickup, correct? You don't have your own dedicated van or the like for
No.
deliveries?
We use our own drivers, though.
Okay. And you found that the operation of your business, parking is more than adequate?
Yeah.
And I know, again, we're not seeking a parking variance. And then deliveries. Are deliveries, we had talked about, are done off hours with
Ideally,
nothing larger
yeah,
than a
I
box
can-
truck?
I requested, if they come earlier, great. Sometimes they come in the middle of the day. That's how we've been doing it. It's just,
And it works out fine?
it's always worked out fine.
And trash is private pickup?
Yep.
And that's also done
That's done
off hours?
Yeah, that's in the morning.
Okay, before business is busy. And I know that Paolo put up the rendering. I assume that you're embracing this investment that you're making into this building and
Yes.
adding further compliance with the new zoning that's in place?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any problem from an operational standpoint or ownership standpoint complying with any of the terms and conditions of the review letter from Colliers, including redoing the parking lot and the
No.
curbs and aprons?
No.
Okay. And I believe that's it. Thank you. I thought it'd be just nice to hear from Chris himself on this
Thank you for your
project.
consideration.
Wait, you can't leave. You might have questions.
Are there questions from the board, from this witness? Questions from the public? Thank you for your testimony.
Thank you.
Now you can leave. He couldn't wait to get away from that mic. All right, I'd now like to call upon Nicholas Graviano, our professional planner. Thanks, Chris.
Mr. Graviano, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're going to give the board tonight will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Would you mind spelling your name, please?
Yes, my first name is Nicholas with an H, last name Graviano, G-R-A, V as in Victor, I-A-N-O.
And Mr. Graviano, I know he's testified many times before this board, but if you could confirm your area of expertise, licenses you hold, and confirm also that your licenses are in full force and effect.
Yes, I'm a planner and partner with Graviano and Gillis Architects and Planners, business address of 101 Crawford's Corner Road in Homedale. Hold a bachelor's degree from Rutgers University, a master's degree from Rutgers University, and a law degree from the Temple University School of Law. I'm a licensed professional planner in the state of New Jersey. Also hold an AICP certification, and I've testified before this board and the zoning board on numerous occasions.
The board stipulates.
Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank you, Chairman.
All right, Mr. Graviano, obviously with the new zoning in place, this is compliant and enhanced under the zoning, in the NC zone. If you could take us through the criteria for the relief that we're seeking by way of bulk variances.
Certainly, I just would like to highlight that the applicant is before the board this evening requesting preliminary and final site plan approval for a specific piece of property known on the township tax maps as block 2606, lot 26.01, with a street address of 470 Chestnut Street. It is located in the NC Neighborhood Core Zone. As the board knows, this NC Neighborhood Core Zone was a result of the township's 2021 master plan. The recent zoning change was made to effectuate the master plan, so the applicant is before you this evening with a permitted use for ground level commercial space, which would consist of the pizzeria as well as a vanilla box, small retail space for future use, and 3 residential apartments above. As you heard in Mr. Bocci's testimony, this is a zone that allows 20 dwelling units per acre. The applicant's square footage is 11,110 square feet. Thus, 5 units would be permitted on this site. The applicant is before you this evening with only 3, and that was done to meet the township's parking requirement. The applicant is requesting C variances both for existing conditions, design waivers, many for existing condition, as well as 2 newly created variances which are de minimis in nature, and I'll get into that in my testimony now. In the Colliers review letter, sections 1.1 and 1.2, you have the proposed variance. The first variance being requested is related to the impervious coverage of the lot. 80% is required, whereas 88.1% exists today, and 88.4% is proposed. So you have a very modest 0.3% impervious coverage being raised as part of this proposal. However, there are benefits derived from the creation of that 0.3%, which is the provision of ADA access into the site, ADA striping within the parking lot, and an enhanced refuse collection area, which will be enclosed and roofed. Additionally, the applicant is requesting a variance from the loading space requirement. One loading space is one loading space is required, whereas 0 is proposed. As you heard in the applicant's operational testimony, he doesn't have an issue with the lack of the loading space. Both of those variances can be granted under the C2 criteria, whereas hardship need not be demonstrated. What must be demonstrated is that it relates to a specific piece of property. In this case, the specific piece of property is the existing pizzeria and parking lot, which are pretty much going to remain the same footprint-wise with this application. It must also advance purposes of zoning and municipal land use law. In this case, this proposal advances purpose A, promotion of the public health, safety, and general welfare, and that's done through the provision of the ADA spaces and the restriping of the parking lot and the numerous site improvements and building improvements that you heard in the testimony of Mr. Dantas and Mr. Bocci. The applicant is requesting design waivers, which are indicated in section 1.3 to 1.8 of the Collier's report. All of them are related to the setback of the parking lot, which the parking lot dimensions, the outbound dimension, is not being changed by this application. So certainly, while they're design waivers, they, strict application of the township zoning ordinance would create an undue hardship upon the applicant with this application. There are numerous existing variances, section 1.9 to 1.12 in the Collier's report. They relate to bulk variances for lot area, lot width, front yard setback, and side yard setback. As you saw, the footprint of the building isn't changing on the side and the front. Those variances could be granted under C1 criteria, whereas it relates to the specific shape or exceptional conditions affecting a piece of property. Those variances can be granted without a substantial impairment of the zone plan or zoning ordinance. In conclusion, I think this is a project that exemplifies what the purpose of the creation of the NC Neighborhood Core Zone was all about in the master plan, as well as the subsequent ordinance adoption for the zone. So this is certainly a proposal which advances the goals and objectives of the master plan and zoning ordinance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Graviano. No questions now at this time.
Questions from the board? Questions from the public? Hearing none.
Yes.
Thank you, Board. I would just like to wish everybody a happy Thanksgiving.
You too. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. We have no further witnesses at this time, Mr. Chairman and board members. Certainly, if there's, all of our witnesses are here, if there are further questions. Oh, just one, Mr. Hatter, I note in the letter there's a question as to whether or not there were underground oil tanks. Chris was not aware of any, and I think removed. Yeah, any have been removed properly. So, again, no further witnesses at this time, and if there are any comments from the public, I'll just briefly sum up.
Are there any comments from the board, from the public? At this time, can you summarize?
Yes, thank you very much. Again, can't say it any better than Mr. Graviano. It's an exciting development here with the new zoning. See, 20 years ago, I was here with Chris for the approval of the Proud Papa's restaurant. He's been a success. It's a great asset, as I said, to the township, and we think that the variances, the few bulk variances that we are seeking generally, which are existing conditions, have been more than justified. We look forward to the board granting this application. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. At this time, can I have a motion to approve application 20-22-15, Proud Papas?
Mr. Chair, I respectfully move application 2022-15, Proud Papas LLC, B2606L26.01, major site plan variance be approved.
Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call vote.
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Reverend Starling?
Yes.
Mayor Figueredo?
Yes.
Mr. Ricketts?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Bowser?
Yes.
Thank you very much, and have a great,
Congratulations.
great evening, and happy Thanksgiving.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Okay, at this time, we have one more item on the agenda. That's a correspondence amendment to the municipal code. Will the representative, I believe that's Mr. Hattever, would you please come forward on this one, please?
Yes. Okay, so as I explained in conference, the Township Committee has referred this ordinance over to the Planning Board for review and consideration. Let me explain what it is. This ordinance basically will prohibit any new construction of a warehouse or distribution center. The underpinning for this ordinance is derived from the master plan. Within the master plan, there was a goal set that, given the fact that truck traffic in this town is well recognized, there is a goal that requires the Township Committee to reduce the impacts of freight service in the town. And so for that reason, the Town Committee has developed this ordinance. Now, what this does, in effect, is it will render all existing warehouses and distribution centers as non-conforming uses. It doesn't ban them, it doesn't require that they shut their door and leave town. But what it would require is, in the event of any change whatsoever to their operation, they would have to file an application with the zoning board, okay? Not this board, because, keep in mind, it's now a non-conforming use, assuming this ordinance goes through, as is fully expected it will, for adoption on December 6th. So again, the basis for this is derived right out of the master plan, which was publicly vetted at a number of meetings. There were residents that came forward during the master plan hearing that pointed out their concerns and objections to the large amount of truck traffic passing through the town. And so our planners at that time felt it important enough to identify it as a reasonable goal in the master plan that we attempt to mitigate any impacts from freight services. And so that is the basis of this ordinance that they're asking you to okay. Okay. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Hatter. Are there any questions from the board? Hearing none, can I have a motion to have the board prepare a report recommending the governing body adopt the ordinance as so written with any comments from the board? Can I have a motion? Can I get a second?
Second.
Roll call vote?
Mr. Johnson?
Yes.
Mr. Lee?
Yes.
Reverend Starling?
Yes.
Mayor Figurito?
Yes.
Ricketts?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Chairman Bowser?
Yes. Thank you, Phil. At this time, we have no additional new business. I would like to have a motion to adjourn.
So moved?
Can I get a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Meeting adjourned.